Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're getting some folks online. This is Adam Paul, your candidate for Lakewood Mayor, and I'm grateful that you're hanging out with us on the phone tonight and should have some good information and some good dialogue. So we just want to wait a couple seconds here and get everybody on board. As you can imagine, we have quite a few people that we're reaching out to tonight. So thank you very much. So tonight we're going to go through a couple different things. We're going to have some informational time as well as some questions, and our moderator on the phone tonight is going to be Cassie. So good evening and welcome, Cassie.
Hi everyone. Thanks for joining our call. I'm going to be your moderator this evening, and I just wanted to give a few rules of the road for Adam's first telephone town hall for his candidacy for mayor. First of all, this call is going to have three components. Adam's going to do an introduction, then we're going to be taking questions from participants, and we have a few poll questions sprinkled in. At any time, if you have a question for Adam, you can press 0 to be connected to our operator, who will take your questions and get you in the queue. Participation in all of the poll questions are completely voluntary and confidential. No pressure to participate, but we would definitely love your feedback. If you cannot stay on the call for the entire time, please feel free to visit Adam's website at www.adampaulforlakewood.com to learn more about Adam's campaign. So it looks like we have a pretty good group of folks on the call now. So Adam, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Fantastic. Well, I want to start with just introducing myself. To those of you who don't know me, my name is Adam Paul. I've been honored to serve you on the Lakewood City Council for the last 8 years, since 2007. During that time, I've served in different capacities. I've served as your president as well as mayor pro tem these last 2 years. Prior to serving on the Lakewood City Council, I represented my neighbors on the Green Mountain Water Board, where I was glad to really participate in citizen legislature for 6 years. I'm a native of Lakewood. I grew up in Green Mountain. I went to Green Mountain High School. And I've owned a small business, a small transportation company for the last 15 years. The community has given me quite a bit, and I want to continue to give back to a great community. And that's why I'm running to be your next mayor. Our work is not done. I'm very proud of many things that we've done over the last 8 years. When we first came on board in 2007, our new group went ahead and lowered taxes for the city of Lakewood. We removed the tax on groceries, and we're very proud of that. We also hired a new city manager. Kathy Hodson is a new city manager for us now 6 years in, but that was a big step in the city of Lakewood, and we're very proud of the job that she has done. We put the city's checkbook online. I'm a big fan of transparency, so we made sure that everybody and anybody could go to the city website and look to see where your tax dollars are being spent. We created new community gardens, and I worked with the neighbors of Beach Park to move a piece of open space that was slated for development and put it back into the inventory. That was a real win for me and for the citizens of Lakewood. And we brought language into the comp plan just recently that ensures the protections of neighborhoods and ensures that the character of our beloved neighborhoods will remain the same. So it's been a lot to do. There's still a lot more to do, and that's a little bit about my background.
Thanks, Adam. That was a great intro. It looks like we have our first question from Dawn in Ward 4. So, Dawn, can you hear us? Dawn, can you hear us?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Great. You have a question for Adam?
Yes, I do. Adam, I'm just curious, which political party do you belong to? Are you a member of?
Okay. That's a great question. Thank you, Don. We get that quite a bit at the local level. By nature, municipal elections are nonpartisan, and I am an unaffiliated. And I've been that way my entire past since I've been registered to vote. And what's important about being an unaffiliated is being able to really work with everybody on both sides of the aisle and folks in many different places. I'm honored to have bipartisan support from folks like Pam Anderson, Rick Instrom, Matt Needler, to Congressman Ed Perlmutter. So I really strive to work with Republicans, unaffiliated, and Democrats. And I'm very proud of that.
Thanks for the question, Don.
Yeah, and if I may, Cassie, if I could follow up on that too. When it comes to local government, it's kind of an old saying, but potholes aren't Republicans or Democrats. They just need to be fixed. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to be there for you, to fix the roads, to protect you with public safety, and provide a nice quality of life. So that's really what we do.
Great. So, Adam, before we take our next question, would you mind sharing with people where they can go to learn more about you in case they can't stay on the call for the entire time?
Certainly. My home phone number is available to anybody. That number is 303-988-6484. It's on the city website. It's on all my literature. I welcome your phone calls. You can email me at adamforlakewood@gmail.com or visit our website at www.adampaulforlakewood.com.
Awesome. So let's go to our next question. Looks like we have a question from Tim. Tim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Tim, go ahead with your question.
My question is our city building permit department seems to be like 10 weeks or better behind. Sure. And what he would do to improve that.
Hey, Tim, thanks a lot. Thanks for calling in, and I appreciate that question. It's something that we've been dealing with for some time. It's a tricky area because, you know, they're dealing with folks who are just doing remodel of their house to people building new hospitals. So the department has a lot going on, and we've heard that there have been some long waits, so we're working on that. And this budget cycle, which we're starting to undertake in the next couple of weeks, we're going to look at adding folks to that department to try to alleviate some of these waits and make it a better process for you, the consumer.
Good to hear, because these waits are extensively long.
Yes, they are, and you know, unfortunately, with the boom in the whole metro area, it's not just the city of Lakewood. You know, I just saw an article in the paper the other day that Denver is facing the same issues. But we are aware of it, and we have a dedicated staff that is trying to deal with it.
Okay. Well, my understanding, though, is that this city has had this issue for a long time. Are you sure that you're going to be able to do that?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and I can tell you it is a high priority for us, and you'll see us start to talk about it in a couple weeks during the budget.
Thanks for your question, Tim.
Well, that's a fair enough answer.
Okay, thank you.
So our next caller is Nancy, who also lives in Ward 4. Nancy, what's your question?
I received a mailing, and I don't quite understand. It's called Watchdog or something like that, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Can you tell me any more about it?
Certainly. Thank you, Nancy. That's a great question. Nancy is referring to a newspaper that you may have received in your mailbox called the Lakewood Watchdog, or True Transparency in Government. And the unfortunate part is it's not true transparency in local government. The Watchdog seeks to create fair through misinformation. And that's unfortunate because we're into building up the community through the proper information. And a lot of the articles that you will see are half-truths, and I encourage you to reach out to the City of Lakewood, to your elected officials. Go online and really seek out the truth. We'd be happy to share with you any of that information or have those discussions with you. Again, I gave you my home phone number. Call me. But be careful when you receive something, especially during an election season, that doesn't credit any of the articles to one single person. And I can tell you there's a lot of games that are going to be played during this election, but our campaign is dedicated to run a clean campaign. We're going to keep it positive. If I didn't have anything positive to say about the city of Lakewood, I wouldn't be running. You deserve that, and that's what we're going to give you.
Great. Thanks, Adam. So our very next question is actually for the audience. So we're going to do our very first poll question. You can use your touch-tone phone to answer this question. It's a 1 through 5 question. Do you feel Lakewood is on the right track? Press 1 for strongly agree, press 2 for somewhat agree, press 3 for neutral, press 4 for somewhat disagree, and press 5 for strongly disagree. One more time, do you feel Lakewood is on the right track? 1 for strongly agree, 2 for somewhat agree, 3 for neutral, 4 for somewhat disagree, and 5 for strongly disagree. Go ahead and answer that question now. And we have one more question from Bob. Bob, are you there?
I am.
All right, Bob, go ahead with your question.
Okay, I'm curious if anybody's going to address the situation with the property taxes and the properties being, again, artificially inflated due to a lack of construction. We've been down this road once before, and it turned into a disaster that's still going on and people are still trying to get out of. I'm just wondering why it was repeated.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that question, and I think we are, reaping the benefits of our own success of this whole metro area, right? I mean, folks really want to be here. We went through the downturn, we went through, the Great Recession and the housing crisis, and now we've lagged a little bit. While we've seen the economy improve, the county maintains themselves, they're about 2 years behind. And the city receives very little property tax, so the majority of it goes to the county. And it's been a tough situation for them, and I think what we're trying to do at the city of Lakewood is make sure that we do have affordable housing and have an opportunity for seniors to maybe transition into something smaller, or folks move to the city and have something that they can start in, and we don't really have that right now, and it is unfortunate. But as far as your city council and as your mayor, what we'll do is continue to look for opportunities, but dealing with the inflated estimates and evaluations is something more on the county level. But I'd appreciate it if you reached out to me offline and we can have a further conversation, and I'd be open to hearing what we can do. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, so Dean has a question for you. Adam, go ahead, Dean.
Hello, Adam. I missed you had a meeting at Chicago Style Beef and Dogs not too long ago.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I missed going to that. I wanted to go, but something came up. Anyway, wanted to get to meet you. And all of a sudden I got this call, so I thought, well, might as well listen to this. I'm an avid sailor. I've got a colorful sailboat that I sail on a lot of the local lakes around here. And I live right up the street from Sloan's Lake, so I've got to pay the non-resident fee for the city of Denver to sail on that lake because it's convenient.
Right.
Now, what does Lakewood have to offer besides Bear Creek? I've been there once. I enjoyed it, but I was hoping that there'd be more, or there was some more being developed as far as reservoirs being allowed to have non-motorized watercraft. Sure.
Thank you for that. And I think I remember growing up, to some extent, on Kendrick Lake, we were able to have that. And that is something that has kind of gone away. And I know that Bear Creek is currently our only lake that is allowed, the Bear Creek and Soda Lake, where we can have non-motorized boats. So we are always evaluating usage and needs and things along those lines in the city of Lakewood. And that's something that I can definitely bring attention to with our community resources department, and we can see those kind of requests and check out the programming and see if we have that efficient. I know it's kind of a long way for you to go, especially since you're on the east side, but the parks belong to the people, and we want to make sure that we're providing the amenities that they want. So again, reach out to me offline and we can see how we can take a look at that.
Yeah, what happened with Kenrick Reservoir or Lake Park?
That's a great question, and it's something I'd have to go back historically. I know it's been some time, and some of these reservoirs are actually, drinking water holdings, so that could have to do with it, or depending upon who has the water rights. So it's a great question. It's something we'll look into.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, and there's also one just to the west of that called South Reservoir,
Yep.
And that's just east of Kipling, and there's I know it's drinking water, and I know Arvada has Stanley Lake, and they're very, very careful about inspecting boats for invasive species, etc.
Sure.
But in my case, I have basically closed halls, so there's no way that anything can get inside. There's
right.
Dean, we will definitely look into that, and we'll do some research and get back to you. Thanks for the question.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, just want to remind everyone, if you have a question for Adam, please press 0. You'll get transferred to our operator and put in the queue. We have a lot of questions to go, but one more question for the audience. This time, we want to know, if you were voting today, would you be voting for Adam Paul for Lakewood Mayor or someone else? Please press 1 if you would be voting for Adam, 2 if you're probably voting for Adam, 3 if you are undecided, 4 if you are probably not voting for Adam, and 5 if you are definitely voting for someone else. Once again, if the election was today, would you be voting for Adam Paul for mayor? 1 for definitely voting for Adam, 2 for probably voting for Adam, 3 for undecided, 4 for probably voting for opponent, and 5 for definitely voting for opponent. And thank you very much for taking the time to answer that question. Just a reminder, these questions are voluntary and confidential, so we don't see your information. They are anonymous. So we appreciate you participating and letting us know how you feel about where the city is going next. Now we're going to go to our next question from Fern. Fern, what's your question?
Hi, Adam. Thank you for this town hall. I'd like to know about what Lakewood has planned for trash pickup. Or is the city going to choose one trash company to do this, and how's that going to play out?
Sure. Now that's a great question. Thank you for asking that, and that's something that has kind of been perpetuated through the watchdog. That there's a story out there that the city is going to single source your trash, and I can tell you, as your city council member and as your next mayor, will not be supporting a single hauler trash system. You know, the city council and staff, we don't just dictate what to do or how to do it. This single hauler trash story has some legs from way back, and it comes from a citizen survey year after year, as well as the city's first sustainability plan that talked about two things. One is a lack of recycling availability in the city of Lakewood, and the second has to do with multiple trash haulers, operating throughout the city. So what the city did to try to get an understanding is we put a request out there to license trash haulers, $50 a year, just to see how many companies were operating in the city. And what we're going to do in 2016 is take that information and sit down with the operators, so sit down with the trash industry, all the operators, with citizens, with staff, and use that sustainability document to look at how we can have best practices. Now, whether that could be having trash on a certain day. I live on a cul-de-sac and we have 5 different trash companies. And it's amazing to watch the chatter on nextdoor.com. This is really a hot topic, and it's created a lot of interest. So I'm glad people are talking about it. The city is not going to get into the trash business. If you believe that, I like to say it's garbage, but it is something that's been out there, and it's a conversation that we're going to continue to have to deal with concerns surrounding garbage collection and recycling, but nothing that we're going to take on ourselves.
Well, you really didn't answer the question. Would you still have the right to choose a trash hauler? And I got my information, I think, from the Sentinel.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely. You certainly do have it. Nothing is changing. The city of Lakewood is not changing the way we do trash or have your trash picked up. That's between you and your hauler. We're just trying to have a conversation with the community and the haulers about concerns that have been coming our way.
Well, I had heard that some of the trash companies were not going to participate because of the, quote, hoops that they had to jump through. And to me, that's doing your job, underneath the radar. Okay, so the trash company can't come and do what
Sure.
they've been doing for me. And, I think that's kind of sneaky.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm a small business owner, and I deal with a lot of rules and regulations. I'm in the transportation business, so I understand. And the last thing we want to do is put undue burdens on our private industry. So that's the first I had heard of that. But I can tell you in other conversations and other things that I've done on the city level, we have always been inclusive and tried to seek out the different operators and the different vendors to make sure we're all on the same page. So it's not going to be a city hall driven, it's going to be a people and trash hauler driven process.
Bird, thank you so much for your question. We appreciate it. We have a lot of more questions in the queue. So next we are going to go to Rex. Rex, you have a question for Adam?
Adam, I live in Ward 1, and I live close to 6th Avenue. And I have talked to one of your competitors about some of the work on 6th Avenue. I'll be as concise as possible. CDOT has promised a sound wall along 6th Avenue, and they have reneged on it over and over again. I know right now on North I-25, CDOT is tearing down sound walls and replacing them. And what they have told us, they're putting in a quiet asphalt, which is kind of like a quiet ambulance, if you know what I mean. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, right.
The predecessor has accepted, or your competitor has accepted what CDOT has said, and I think what most of us who are close to 6th Avenue want is somebody who's going to fight to get that sound wall, which has been promised for years and years.
Yeah, I get that, and being in that area is a tough spot, especially if you just go a little bit east and there's plenty of sound wall all the way to Sheridan. With that said, I know that I've been in the queue, and so people know that the plan is to redo that whole interchange. It's about a $150 million project at Wadsworth and 6th Avenue.
And they're doing Garrison, but they're not funding. They're not going to fund the sound wall while they're tearing sound walls down.
Wadsworth, and what they're looking at now, so they have done the quiet asphalt. And in a conversation I just had with CDOT within the last couple of days, they're trying to use some white noise devices to test with new technologies to see if they can do some canceling. The way it was explained to me, it's like the Bose canceling headsets that you wear when you fly. So they have those for highways, and I've never seen it or heard of it, but they are aware that sound walls were supposed to be in there. They're under budget constraints, and they're looking for other ways. And what I would say is if we can test these out and see if it works and it's a cheaper alternative, let's try it, and if that doesn't work, let's get on board and push sound walls.
Basically, my question is, you're going to fight for a sound wall because I don't believe the other stuff is going to work. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So
absolutely,
I don't want to accept CDOT just saying something. I want somebody to fight for the community.
I will fight, sir, for a sound wall, but I will tell you, let's try this out and see. And it doesn't mean we have to try it for 2 or 3 years. Let's just check it out and see when they put it in. And that's the other part. When are they going to put it in? I didn't get an answer on that.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Rex. Okay, so we have one more poll question. I just want to remind everyone that you can press 0 to ask Adam a question. Our next poll question is regarding what is most important to you. There's 5 different issues, and we want to know which one is your top issue. So of parks and open space, public safety, development, quality schools, and trash, which is the most important to you? Please press 1 if your top issue is parks and open space. Press 2 if it's public safety. Press 3 if it's development. Press 4 for quality schools, and press 5 for trash. One more time, that's 1 for parks and open space, 2 for public safety, 3 for development, 4 for quality schools, 5 for trash. And Adam, we had a caller that is getting over laryngitis, so our operator has a note for us, And Karen would like to know if in your job as mayor, if you have anything to do with helping the city create more jobs in the private sector and continuing to improve Lakewood's economy. So why don't we go ahead and answer Karen's question? Okay. Sorry about your laryngitis, Karen. Hope you feel better. Thanks for calling in.
The city of Lakewood has been very fortunate the last 8 years to weather the Great Recession, and we've spent less than we've brought in. We've added to our reserves, and we'll talk about that a little bit later to possibly see what we should be doing with some of those reserves. But economic development is critical, and not only retail economic development, but primary jobs. Lakewood and Jefferson County loses a lot of folks every day to other parts of the community for jobs. It'd be great to have folks who can really live, work, and play in the city of Lakewood. So a couple things that I want to tackle, and that's working on what I call pockets of prosperity, areas that kind of need some revamping and some love. I think of Jewel and Wadsworth. I think of the Sheridan corridor, the Wadsworth or the Colfax corridor, areas where we can really look to help small businesses find places, small businesses that are owned by Lakewood residents and that can be serviced by Lakewood residents. And that really creates sustainable business. The other part of that is primary jobs. Along the Union corridor, behind the Sheridan Hotel is called the Horseshoe property, where the light rail station is. And there's the new hospital, and if you go across 6th Avenue, there's Terumo BCT, which has its national headquarters there. That's a great opportunity for the city of Lakewood to look at, trying to create primary jobs, jobs that people in the city of Lakewood can have, and therefore be able to have the best quality of life.
Thanks, Adam. Karen, I hope that answered your question. Now we have a question from Alex. Alex is 10 years old. Thanks for participating and being engaged in your civics right before you go back to school. Alex, what's your question?
Sir?
Are you there, Alex?
Yes, sir.
Yep, go ahead.
What's your question, buddy?
When you're elected, will you allow a recycling program?
Absolutely, Alex. Recycling is a big part of the sustainability plan that was just passed. In the city of Lakewood itself, the government within, the 1,000 employees that serve the city of Lakewood, we're trying to tune that program in so we can do it best ourselves, and then we can educate others. It's not a forced program, but it's a program where we can be a partner and educate. And I know that you said that Denver has a recycle program in the schools, and why don't you reach out to me after this and we can get you plugged in with the folks in Jefferson County and see if we can make that happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. All right, our next question is from Scott. Just a reminder, press 0 if you have a question for Adam. We just have a few more minutes on this call. We're going for about 10 more minutes. We have time for a few more questions. So if you want to get your question in the queue, please press 0, and we'll try and get to as many as possible. But Scott on Kipling has a question. Go ahead, Scott.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Scott, what's your question, sir?
Well, I hope you're having a good evening.
Hey, thank you. We are. This is great to have this opportunity.
Good. My call concerns a marked increase in criminal activity. I live in one of the older Lakewood areas, and I've noticed a marked increase in crime.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think it's not going to get better; it's just going to get worse. If you're elected, what is your plan of action to deal with this?
Yeah, thank you for that. Public safety is one of the most important things, and probably the most important thing to a great community. And I am very proud of our police department, and they're always looking inwardly for best practices, and that's something over these last few months they've been looking at. And they've been looking at really two things. One is they're looking at their schedules and their capabilities and seeing if they have the right amount of folks on at the right times. Secondly, they're looking at if they have the right staffing levels. So what I would support is if we need more officers, and it is budget time, if we need more officers to really evaluate that and get what we need to ensure that we are fighting the crime and not seeing the spikes. But the fact of the matter is we are seeing, things moving to the suburbs. We're seeing poverty move to the suburbs as Denver has gentrified. So it is an issue, and it's something that we need to get on top of and be on top of. I have faith in our chief and our folks, but I will support adding more folks to the force, always looking for better ways to police, community policing, so enhancing our neighborhood watch and really, letting criminals know that the city of Lakewood is not home for them and they're not welcome here.
Okay, let me get a little more specific.
Okay.
What is your personal plan? What is your personal actions to do to spearhead something like this?
So, twofold, well, actually threefold. I'm still waiting on information as to where our staffing levels are. So my plan is to address that issue and respond. If we need more police on the street, if we need 5, 10, 15 more officers go through training, I will support that and make sure that happens. I will also increase kind of the outreach amongst the liaison unit. We have a great sector liaison unit that really tries to work with neighborhood people, and what their job is to do is to be really boots on the ground. So making sure that we have more of those folks out walking the neighborhoods, getting to know the neighborhoods, having a presence in the neighborhood. And the other one is statistical based. The city was without a crime analyst for a few months, and so we're getting caught back up, and you said you had seen an increase. So that's something that I'll need to look into, but having real good data to see where the crime is happening, what is happening, and then we can isolate those areas and really infiltrate them with law enforcement to see that drop. So that's my plan.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. All right. So, Adam, we had a question just drop off of the queue, but it was an important one because I know that one of the things a lot of people have been talking about is where the city's finances are right now. So can you talk a little bit about where those finances are before we ask our next poll question?
Certainly. The city is in good health, not a lot of debt, strong reserves, and strong reserves to the point where it's probably time for conversations about where and what some of those reserves should be going towards. Our general fund is roughly $100 million a year. We have $30 to $35 million in reserves. That's grown every year. The council policy is 10%, and I believe Tabor's 3%. So we have some reserves, and that's always an interesting conversation, and that's one that I want to reach out to the community as your mayor to understand, is 35 too high, or should we allocate 10 to certain areas? And that's where I want to hear from you with this next question of, where should, if you think those reserves are too high, where should we be allocating those?
So, if the city does have a surplus, where should the funds go? Please tell us what you think. If you think that surplus funds should go to parks and rec centers, please press 1. Press 2 for public safety and more police. Press 3 for sidewalks. Press 4 for roads and infrastructure. And press 5 for a refund to taxpayers. If the city has a surplus, where should those funds go? 1 for parks and rec centers, 2 for public safety and more police, 3 for sidewalks, 4 for roads and infrastructure, and 5 for a refund to taxpayers. Thank you very much. All right, our next question is from George. George, you're on the line. Go ahead.
Yes, it's my opinion that Colfax just gets more and more run down every year with homeless people, people pushing shopping carts, loitering. And I wondered if you had a plan to revitalize West Colfax.
You bet, sir. Sure, thank you very much. And I had the opportunity to go pick up trash on Colfax prior to the marathon, and it was really interesting. It's a different area, and it's a tough area. With that said, there are some great city plans, and with the Ivor neighborhood and the Two Creeks organization, 40 West Arts, and the Colfax bid, there's a lot of TLC being pushed that way. And there's a new arts district which is starting to see the fruits of their labor pay off. They just had Mural Fest where they did 8 murals on Saturday. They're trying to turn that into a yearly event so that cut down on graffiti because you're looking at nice artwork. There's a public arts program along the light rail. There's a college, the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. So when it's in its early days of kind of revitalization, and I'm excited. I do see a future for Colfax. So if you go further west, First Bank is redoing their corporate headquarters. They're our hometown bank, and there's a lot of investment in that corridor. So I'm optimistic that if we continue down this road, continue to support the neighborhood organizations that are working for this renewal, it's going to get there. You know, we'd want to see it tomorrow or we want to see it next year, and it's probably still a couple years out. But there's some champions on Colfax, and it's the folks that live there, and they're making it happen. So I'm excited. It's a area, if you get a chance, go to a West Colfax Community Association meeting. It's a lot of energy, a lot of folks that are excited. So I'm going to continue to support those. And with the light rail, it's bringing in new investment. It's bringing in some jobs, and I think we're going to be in good shape.
George, thank you so much for your question. All right, so folks, we have about 5 minutes left, and we have one more poll question, and then we'll take one more question in the queue, and then we'll do closing remarks. So our last question is really about what qualities are most important to you in your next mayor. So we have 5 qualities. The first one is integrity. So press 1 for integrity, press 2 for experience, press 3 for the ability to bring people together, press 4 for vision with a plan, and press 5 if all are equally important to you. Once again, which of these qualities is most important in your next mayor? Press 1 for integrity, 2 for experience, 3 for ability to bring people together, 4 for a vision with a plan, and 5 all are equally important. So thank you very much for answering that question for us. And we are going to take our last question from John in Ward 4. John, what's your question?
I would like to know where Adam stands with reference to marijuana. As right now, Lakewood has nothing at all, and I'd like to keep it that way. But how does he feel?
All right. Thank you, John. I appreciate that question. And had somebody asked me 8 years ago when I was first elected, of all the topics of what we would be dealing with, would marijuana be one? And I would have never thought. With that said, I think the city did a fantastic job rolling out the medical program. There's only 12 dispensaries. You cannot open a new one. And we really worked hand in hand with the citizens, the police, and the city to make that happen. Recreational marijuana is different. There are none, and there won't be any. The citizens of Lakewood voted that they did not want recreational stores, and we will honor that. So as far as I'm concerned, that will remain unless the people say otherwise.
All right. Thank you very much, John. We appreciate your question. Folks, we are just about done with our town hall, so I'm going to turn it back over to Adam. Thank you once again for joining.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been really cool. This is the first time I've done this, so I thank you for spending a little bit of time this evening with you. This community really matters to me and means a lot to me. I want to continue to have the opportunity to serve you as your next mayor. I'm fortunate to have support from all of our living past mayors, from Linda Morton, Linda Shaw, Mayor Steve Burkholder, and Mayor Murphy, folks that have really, in their time, done great things for the city of Lakewood. I have a plan. The plan is to work to make sure that we have safe communities, that we have vibrant communities, that we look out for our next generation, which is our most important thing that we can do, and provide the services needed to make sure that they have everything they can to succeed, and make sure that we protect our neighborhoods. We allow growth where appropriate, but we make sure that our wonderful neighborhoods remain the same. So I ask you for your vote this November. Ask you to reach out to me at adampaulforlakewood@gmail.com, www.adampaulforlakewood.com, or give me a call, 303-988-6484. And together we will keep Lakewood the great community that it is, and the great community that you expect. Thank you, and thank you for your support. Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're getting some folks online. This is Adam Paul, your candidate for Lakewood Mayor, and I'm grateful that you're hanging out with us on the phone tonight, and should have some good information and some good dialogue. So we just want to wait a couple seconds here and get everybody on board. As you can imagine, we have quite a few people that we're reaching out to tonight. So thank you.